Shalom. This is Truth is Everlasting, Lion's Den. I am Yahweh Sop. I camp our Lion Den, Hawan Ben Joshua, Jacksonville, Florida. But first, I'll take a prayer to the Father, to the Son, to the elders, and to the archons, and to the women and children. Tau, Halayim La, Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Ha Rokah Kodash Mahamath, in the name of Yahweh Shai, in spirit and holy and in truth. Double honors to the 144,000 chosen elect. Double honors to the elders of GMS. Double honors to my elder Hawam. Salutations to the archons who are on the four corners of the earth, and to the women and children, Shalom. Yep, this is 12 days ago. It says here, start preparing yourselves, right? Technology is rapidly moving faster worldwide, right? And she's going to inform some more information of where we are today with technology that they want to put and force upon all of us, right? Especially the so-called Negros, Latinos, Nicans, and speckled birds. The title of this lesson is called Seeking Whom He May Devour. Here we go.
Attention to the executive orders. Some of my reporting in the lead up to his inauguration and also during the campaign as it related to, the Trump camp in particular, are some of his connections to these big tech figures, whether it's Elon Musk or figures that are, also part of the so-called PayPal mafia, David Sachs being the crypto NAA czar, for example, and someone like JD Vance having relatively close proximity to Peter Thiel, someone at a top HHS position, Jim O'Neill, also very close to Peter Thiel, who has, I would argue, wildly different views than Robert F. Kennedy, who's supposed to lead HHS, especially in terms of deregulation, biotech, and mRNA technology. What are these things ultimately going to result in? And I would consider people to consider those connections and also consider that there's a high likelihood, just like in the first term, that there will be a lot of, deregulation over the next 4 years. And I'm sure a lot of people will be happy about that, but I think some people that voted for Trump may not be, particularly in the Make America Healthy Again movement, where deregulation at the FDA, for example, could result in a flooding of the market with mRNA products, which are very controversial with a significant segment of Trump's base, for example. Or when Trump was in office the first time, he deregulated biotech and agriculture pretty significantly. A lot of people in that same Make America Healthy Again movement are not really into, a proliferation of GMO crops in the food supply, for example. I think a lot has been said about, people have probably noticed Palantir's stock performance. I think it's very likely that over the next 4 years, Palantir will become an even more important government contractor, considering that a lot of people that are prominent Palantir investors or co-founders have attached themselves in various ways, either to the Trump campaign as donors or occupying important posts in the administration. So Palantir, again, is sort of the engine that a lot of the surveillance state really runs on. And I think people should really educate themselves about it, especially as it relates to predictive policing and predictive health and predicting pandemics before it happens, and all of that is concerning to you. And I think it's likely that there's going to be an increase in biometric digital ID. Trump has sort of marketed this as a way to stop mass migration. The dialectics are different, but it's sort of a policy that's being marketed all over the world. Depending on the country, the sales pitch is different, but ultimately that policy is being marketed, and in the push into digital assets, I think, is also happening globally. And I think Trump made it very clear that he was going to be very focused on that, and I don't think there's any reason to doubt that particular promise. I personally am of the view that there are oligarchs that are interested in king-making markets. I think that's particularly true of someone like David Sachs, who's going to be the crypto AI czar and doesn't have to divest from any of his investments or other potential conflicts of interest with some of the firms that he'll be involved in overseeing or deciding regulation on. And when you have that type of power, you can easily king-make and pick and choose companies that you want to see win. And so you kind of have to wonder if this is really going to be a free market type of situation, as a lot of people would like it to be, because when you have that type of centralized power sort of deciding who wins and who doesn't, and having OpenAI and Oracle, for example, in this recent announcement, those are very big companies. They're likely to only get bigger should there be a more decentralized landscape in these industries that are so important to foster competition. Or are we getting close to a quasi monopoly model in certain fields of big tech? And I think that could be potentially problematic and something to look at, especially when you consider that there have been, statements made by members of the quote unquote PayPal mafia that free market competition is for losers and that companies should find a niche and corner that market and essentially build a monopoly or quasi-monopoly. And some of those people have done that in direct collaboration with the national security state, as is the case of Palantir, for example, which was created with CIA and In-Q-Tel's direct involvement and has very significant CIA connections from its origins to now. So if you're building a quasi-monopoly and you don't like free market competition and you're going to partner, with most powerful and unaccountable parts of the state in that way, what does that ultimately mean? And is this, going to be the free market utopia that we're being sold, or, is something else going to happen? It's not really surprising to me that there's being a big push into AI infrastructure. And this is something that's really been what I would argue a bipartisan push that's been going on for some time, starting with really the National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence that was led by Eric Schmidt. Even though he's a Democratic donor, has been very active in this space and sort of has the same view propagated by more Republican-leaning big tech figures.
Okay, so you can see, they're not hiding it no more, right? It's going to be in the medical field. It's going to be in the court system, military, police, right? Bank system, okay? In reality, it's going to be everywhere. But the question arises, why is it that they're pushing technology? Even though we hear what they say, what the belief system is, we're going to have peace on earth. It's going to be better business. It's going to lower crime. But in reality, it's because they want to control the mass, especially the so-called Negros Latinos, Native American speckled birds, because, the Edomites know what's going to happen in the end game and how our people who have been called to do the work in the name of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai are going to turn into superheroes with spiritual powers. Okay, I want to go to 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walking about, seeking whom he may devour. Right? So he can do that now even better and quicker with technology. Right? They want to force everyone around the world into a belief system, artificial. That's that they want you to obey AI, artificial intelligence, artificial belief system that the true living God of heaven and earth, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, they don't want him to be part of our life. They don't want us to be following him or reading the book, in his name. So they have to put something inside of all of us in order to turn us into cyborgs, right? Verse 9. Whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world. Yeah, we're going to suffer, but we have to hold strongly to the faith, right? Because if we do that, there is a big reward, you see? Verse 10, but Yahweh of all grace, who has called us into his eternal glory by Yahweh Shai, after that ye have suffered a while, see, it's only going to be only a while, make you perfect, establish, strengthen, settles you. Once we receive, that's going to be going really for the 144,000 chosen elect, which I can only hope and pray that I'll be one of them, okay? It's going to be all men who receive the new body, the perfect body, with the new spiritual power, okay? In the name of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, we're going to be Superman, okay? And this is what concerns the Edomites. That's a they have to start keeping track in a higher level than what they are doing now. I want to go to 1 Corinthians. Give me a minute. Chapter 2, verse 11. For what man knows the things of a man? No one. Said the spirit of man, which is in him. Even so, the things of Yahweh knows no man. But the spirit of Yahweh is the only one that will know, right? So we who do the work in the name of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, we look into the spiritual things of everyone to know who they really are, right? Because everyone has a mask on, you know. So many of our people have been indoctrinated with so much lies that they believe the lie more than the truth to begin with anyway. Okay? I want to go to James chapter 2. Oops. Oh, Slovakia. Gotta do it again. James chapter 2, verse 26. For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also. Yeah. When you ask people, do you have faith? They go, oh man, yeah, I do. I got a lot of faith. Then when you ask them, show me your work, they look at you, what? Man, come on, man. You don't have to do any work. Well, okay, if you don't want to build spiritual credits, and when the time comes and you call out the name, right, that he will hear you. All right, keep thinking like that. You know, right now we're living in a society where people around the world are waking up and realizing that working for a job is becoming more of a waste of time. We're going to have to go back to the old ways, right, where we work with our hands and trade for whatever we can trade with, okay? I want to jump to verse 19. Thou believe that there is one God. Thou does well. The devil also believes and trembles. And that's the devil, okay? He trembles when he hears the name of Yahweh, Shem Yahweh Shai. So those of our people, the so-called Negros, Latino American speckled birds, should repent with fear and trembling, right? Because he's not coming to save the whole world. As a matter of fact, 2/3 of our people are not going to be making it. They're going to be thrown into the lake of fire to be cleansed because they don't want to repent. I want to go to Ephesians chapter 4, verse 27. Okay, neither give place to the devil. I jump to 28. Let him that stole steal no more, but rather let him labor, working with his hands the thing which is good, that he may have to give to him that needs. Right? So we keep forgetting that even though we work in this system right now to pay our bills, but in the past we didn't work for no governments, right? Everyone around the world was working, and those who were called to do the work of Yahweh Shem Shai was doing the work of Yahweh Shai, building things, creating things, and trading one on, whatever they built to trade with one another, And we're gonna have to put our faith in Yahweh Shai when the time comes that they bring in the MOTV, which is going to be around the corner. Okay, we cannot trust the wicked because they're going to keep doing what they were created to do wickedly. I want to go to Ephesians chapter 6, verse 11. Put on the whole armor of Yahweh, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Yeah, because it's going to get crazy out here, okay? Verse 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Yeah. Job chapter 20, Job 9, chapter 24, the earth is given to the hands of the wicked, And 2/3 of our people don't realize that and don't care, okay? It's going to be a rude awakening. I'm going to leave it with Revelation chapter 12. Slovakia. Chapter 12. Give me a minute. Therefore rejoice, ye heaven, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knows that he has but a short time. And we are getting closer where the devil, the Edomites, are going to get so desperate to speed up the process of technology, right? To demand that everyone better take it or else. I hope that this was edifying, and with that I'll say Shalom.